Yes,
We will keep it moving. Are you ready for rapid fire?
I'm always ready for rapid fire. Let's go.
All right.
Woo!
I think we've got some good stuff here to start us off, and I thought we
Okay.
might kind of get some questions on this during the mailbag, but we didn't.
I know,
Fill
right?
in the blank. Tim Priester at Irish Illustrated talked with Irish athletic director Jack Swarbrick, who says Notre Dame's new apparel deal will come down to either Under Armour, Nike, or Adidas, and that's blank.
Expected. I don't know, obviously, where those three rank, but I would say that those, if you put a gun to my head and you're just like, pick the three finalists, it would have been these three. And so that doesn't surprise me at all. And the fact that they're just about ready to name the winner, or whatever you want to say, the winner. I'm excited that they're going to get this out of the way so we can stop answering these questions. Not yours, but you know what I mean. Like,
no, but supposedly it's going to happen. It sounds like within the next month as well. Yeah,
awesome. That's fantastic, and we can just get it figured out and deal with whatever it is. But those are the three that I would have anticipated being the finalists.
Now, there's no mention of Jordan Brand specifically, even though Jordan Brand is an offshoot of Nike. So I don't know exactly what that means, but it could just be Nike. What do you think about Adidas being in here? Like the fact that there's a chance they could end up going back to Adidas. Does that, are you good with that? Does it matter to you?
Here's what I'll say about Adidas. So the last time I dealt with Adidas was about 5-6 years ago.
I was going to say before the Under Armour contract, but apparently not.
Well, for high school, like,
okay.
So the high school, so the way high school obviously works, and you know this, like you can get the stuff that the college kids wear, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you wanted to spend the money, you can get the same stuff that the college kids are wearing for your high school team, right? I couldn't stand the Adidas uniforms. Like they're the super like tight look to, I did not like them in any way, shape or form. And that was like their thing, that was their jersey. So I would have to do a little bit more research on what the Adidas football uniforms are looking like these days. And to get a better idea of what they're offering. And then obviously
I think Texas A&M is still an Adidas school, if I remember right. Yeah. Some of their uniform combinations are better than others.
Yeah, I just didn't like the actual uniform itself.
Kansas is actually an Adidas school, and now Kansas football has a million different combinations, between helmets and jerseys and all that stuff. I will say, like they're just the if you throw out the fact that they've got so many different helmet varieties, their uniforms do look pretty sharp. Now they're different colors, obviously, but just the style of the uniforms, I have liked what I've seen the last few years.
Okay. I mean,
I've got no problem going back to Adidas.
I don't either.
I guess
I really don't.
I think some people do. IU is Adidas. I haven't looked, I don't see as much of Indiana. There are actually a lot of, Adidas out there, and it's been a decade now at this point. So, and I think that there has been some definite advancement, and like when you look at the shoes and all that kind of stuff, I've got no problem with Adidas. Now, piggybacking this, here's a quote from Swarbrick in the Irish Illustrated article about the priorities of the new apparel deal. Quote, "Positioning is really important. We want to be either the most important partner for the apparel company or clearly one of its most important partners. One of my principal jobs is to protect the Notre Dame brand. That's about positioning the brand and having it be seen in a way we want it seen. The partner in that is very important to us. Secondly is service. We've spent time talking to other schools who have other apparel providers about their service experience. We know what ours has been, and so that is a big part of it. 3 is the financial package and what the value represents," end quote from Jack Swarbrick. So positioning being one of the apparel company's most important partners, service and financial package. What do you think about, and the dollar, financial package, dollar amount. So what do you think about those priorities, Vince?
I think you nailed it, to be honest with you. I agree that one of the number one responsibilities of the athletic director at the University of Notre Dame is to protect the brand. I completely agree with that. And Jack Swarbrick has done a fantastic job of that throughout his tenure. He has kept Notre Dame at the forefront, and that's what you need to do. And there are obviously, if you drill down into that and what that means, and then if you want to like even put that into service, right? Have Notre Dame kids in your catalog, modeling or whatever. Like, get Notre Dame out there, get their brand out there, and use the apparel deal as a vehicle for that. I have no problem with that. And I think not only that, I think it's absolutely in the correct order as well. Service is very, very important. When you call up your place, whoever you're with, and you're like, hey, we need this and we need this and we need it by then, it better be here the day before that. You know what I mean? Like, show me that we're a priority for you and what that service looks like. And we can talk, I think, and I think appropriately, third is the financial package. Notre Dame is not hurting for money. That's not the issue here. It's more the prestige of Notre Dame and where they land on the catalog of the people that are involved with whatever apparel brand you go with. That's way more important than the paycheck that they're going to be getting.
There are going to be some people, though, who say that is the most important thing, and Notre Dame needs to be, the highest paid and all that, because it's happened before with some of these deals where people, didn't think that Notre Dame was being compensated correctly in that case.
And part of that, and part of the protecting the brand is also the financial package, because because people are going to have that opinion and like, oh, well, so-and-so and so-and-so are getting more money than you guys are. So is your brand really that strong? Okay. I can see that. That's all part of protecting the brand. So, but that's why I would put the financial piece third, because I don't think the financials are not as important as the other two, but I think if the other two are important and they're met, then the financial will meet it as well.
And I mean, look, I think from everything that I've heard, Under Armour does a good job with the service part. And when they signed the contract, it was, reported to be the biggest of its kind at the time. Now that has changed a lot because of the stock price and all that different stuff, so, they've hit at least part of it, but based on everything that we hear about the, and know about the quality of the shoes and things like that, like whatever you think about the uniforms, some of the uniforms look good. I think that there are big whiffs, with other parts of the uniform. Is that really protecting the brand with what we've seen there so far? Whereas I think that the other two companies, Adidas and Nike, when you look at the stuff that they've got out across the country on, with other high profile programs, I think that they seem to, to fit that a lot better, but what we don't know is, I guess, the, like making Notre Dame a priority, like I think they all tell you they're going to make you the priority, just like,
of course.
Like when, the movie Air, when Michael Jordan went into those meetings, they all had the cliche pitches and stuff like that they gave him, but you need to actually believe that they're going to be it. And I do think that it's good that they're out there talking to other schools about what their service has been like.
Doing their due diligence.
What they think about some of these different companies that, that they're considering in this.
Agreed. No, I think they're doing their due diligence, and the fact that they're pretty much ready to announce means they already have made up their mind. I mean, they're pretty much there. They're just getting the final I's dotted and T's crossed, that sort of a thing. So it's going to be interesting to see, because no matter what they do, there's going to be a section of people that are going to be pissed. So
Mr. 2.0, I mean, basically brings up a good, I mean, we've all talked about it. Sure. Whose fault is the mustard pants? Is Notre Dame choosing to go with the mustard color, or is this an Under Armour option? Because if you can go, like if you can have those throwbacks to the 1988 team,
clearly they can make them
and have pure gold. That's right. Why aren't they wearing those?
Like, they can clearly make them.
Yeah.
So good question. And it's probably pretty low on Marcus Freeman's priority list, if I'm being honest. I mean, and I get that to a degree, but I guarantee you, Marcus Freeman has had a say in who they're going to go with. Oh,
I'm sure, because I'm sure that he has visited. He's been in on this. I would imagine that the head football coach has been a part of this process, asking questions, all
And
these different things.
basketball.
Well, and I was going to say, and I'm
shocked if
sure
they
that
did,
I'm
yeah.
sure that they, that the athletic department has sat down with all these other coaches and said, "What's your priority? What do you like about
Right.
Under Armour? What don't you like? All these different things.
And what do you like about other companies? And if you could pick any shoe for your kids, what would they be? I think, that's a pretty simple reaching out to your head coaches across the board, track, soccer, lacrosse, all of the above. Like, what would you guys want if you could choose anything? I think that has to have something to do with it.
Yeah. So Swarbrick also told Tim Priester that with NBC adding the Big Ten primetime package this season, there could be more scheduling of Big Ten teams in the future. Quote, "We'll look for future opportunities," or Pete Bavacqua will now, "to probably add to our Big Ten inventory of games because there's a natural synergy there," end quote. Scale of 1 to 10, how much does that move the needle for you?
Well, clearly that means they're joining the Big Ten, right? Because there's a natural synergy there.
Well,
anyway, I'm joking. Obviously,
either that or clearly they're re-upping with NBC because
right.
like it does make it.
Good call.
Looking at the wording and some of the other, it like there was an NBC focus in this. But go ahead.
You're right. I don't have a problem with playing some of the Big Ten teams, and I've talked about this before. I like when they play Purdue and Michigan State, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. So I would be okay with that. I really would. I would be okay. Now, I don't want them to schedule like Rutgers and it be a night game, something stupid like that. I want it to be kind of a historical opponent for Notre Dame. I would like that a lot better. So, yeah, I think, if we're doing a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 7. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, John was just saying he's a 10. I'd go, 7, 7.5, 8-ish in that area. I'm a little hesitant on your TV partner selecting, your schedule, but at the same time, if that's part of the deal, then that's just another negotiating point, right? That's right. Like another line, another bullet on your line of negotiation. So, if you're Notre Dame, NBC says, "Well, we've got this Big Ten package now. We'd like you to schedule more Big Ten games," which, by the way, John Oren from the Sports Business Journal, you might remember about a year ago, this was something he had in the article that he wrote about that, where he said you could potentially see Notre Dame playing more Big Ten opponents in the future because of this NBC Big Ten deal. Now, here we are almost a year later, and Jack Swarbrick is almost saying it verbatim. But if that's going to happen, then that means, again, that's a point of negotiation for Notre Dame. Well, we'll concede that, but that, that's going to drive us up another 10 million, because now, you're playing a part in scheduling our game, and it just makes sense, obviously, because it kills two birds with one stone. Like if Notre Dame is playing a home game against a Big Ten opponent, well, that's it just drops right into that Big Ten primetime package on NBC seamlessly, which is why NBC would want more of that. But I agree with what you're saying. It would have to be, USC is already going to be on there. As we talked about a couple of weeks ago, this is why I would be in favor if Notre Dame, is going to be insistent on making a trip to California every year. I would get rid of Stanford and put UCLA, replace them with UCLA, because then you get to Southern California where the talent is instead of Northern California. So that's right. And that's what I'm saying. It's Big Ten. Yeah. So there's natural there because NBC could televise both of those, USC and UCLA. They could televise them home and home. You're going to have Notre Dame and both of those schools in primetime potentially on NBC, or at least on NBC every year, because of the fact that they would both be Big Ten teams. And then, you could rotate through your Michigan, your Michigan State, probably Purdue, just because
Ohio
they're
State,
a little bit of a rival.
That's fine.
Yeah, whoever. Yeah.
I don't want any of those teams to be on there every year, though, because they're not natural rivals. Like somebody said in the chat, Ohio State should be on the schedule every year. No, they shouldn't. Notre Dame's not in the Big Ten. They should not be on Notre Dame's schedule every year. They're not a rival of Notre Dame. They're a really good team right now that Notre Dame has to play, so it's a big game, but they're not a rival of Notre Dame. They should not be on the schedule every year.
Yeah. And, this is, as Mr. 2.0 says, I think everyone wants to see USC play in South Bend in November. And
I would love that too.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what USC joining the Big Ten, like, are they going to, is there going to have to be some, sort of concessions on their part as well, since they're already going to have to play some of these November night games and stuff like that. Where are those night games going to take place? It's they can't all be in Los Angeles.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, good point.
But maybe they end up being. I don't know. So the NBA draft is tomorrow night. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski has traditionally tipped picks on Twitter, like before the draft pick is announced on ESPN. He says he's not going to do it this year. Do you like it? Doesn't have to be the NBA draft, NFL draft, maybe, or MLB, whatever draft you happen to watch. Do you like it when reporters tip the picks on Twitter before the picks are actually announced on TV?
I hate it. And there was one year I was watching the NFL draft and I was scrolling through Twitter and I can't even remember who it was, but somebody had the picks about 2 minutes before they would have been announced every single time. Like, they were announcing it every time. And I was glued to my phone watching who the picks were going to be. And it ruined the whole experience for me. I hated it. And so from that point on, and that was a couple of years ago, from that point on, I don't even get on my phone during the draft if I'm watching it on TV. Now, if I'm not by a TV, I watch, look for whatever. But like, I would rather watch it on TV. I don't want to be tipped off by Twitter. That's no fun for me. I don't like it.
I agree. And, I like to be on Twitter because there's so much downtime in between picks.
True.
I'm mostly talking NFL. Again, we're using NBA draft because it's Woj and, he's, like, I guess he actually started doing this. He said he created his Twitter account in 2009 when he was still working at Yahoo. And he did it for the purpose of basically, making the pick announcement, basically to one up ESPN. Since then he's obviously gone to work for ESPN, but he's finally going away from it. But I agree with, like, there's so much downtime. I like being on Twitter during the draft because you kind of, you see what different people are saying about, either guys who just got picked and everything else. So it completely blows it if you're on Twitter and, like, why am I watching this show where it takes 10 to 15 minutes between every pick if you're just going to blow it before they actually announce it on TV? So I hate it when they do that.
Terrible. Because it's that one-upmanship, it's like, oh, I got it before, it was on TV or what. Okay, good for you,
Tanner had a question for you. You were talking about Phil Jurkovec. I don't know where you want to go with this. Can you elaborate more on Jurkovec not getting along with people?
I don't want to elaborate too much. I'll just say that Phil did not get along with Brian Kelly and Tommy Rees, and vice versa. I mean, it was and depending on who you talk to.
Well, but look, Phil, the way Phil talks about Notre Dame now is obviously.
There was bad blood.
Lingers. I mean,
there was bad blood.
Basically, the reason he still takes those shots.
Right, bad blood, and you can, again, depending on who you talk to, they started it, he started it, Phil's dad there's a million different stories out there, right? And I don't necessarily care which one's which. The bottom line, they didn't get along. There was a relationship issue there, and it was best for everybody that they got a divorce, essentially. So that's really all I meant by that. I'm not saying that he specifically didn't get along with a lot of people. He didn't get along with Brian Kelly and Tommy Rees, or they didn't get along with him. Whatever. It didn't work. It didn't work.
Exactly. Salty wants to know, assembling your choices independently from all current and past Notre Dame coaches, what is the worst possible offensive and defensive staff and head coach? Let's just go coordinators. We don't have to go position coaches. So offensive, defensive coordinators and head coach, worst possible.
Yeah, this question was asked yesterday, I believe.
Was it? Okay.
To Brian. I was in the waiting room or whatever, pulling the questions up. But basically, Brian Van Gorder, a defensive coordinator.
Agree.
What was it? I can't remember who he said for head coach. I think he said Brian Kelly because he hates Brian Kelly, which, I mean, there's
if
other.
we're going to go on results, I'd say, like as
Yeah.
good a guy as Faust is, I have to go with Faust.
Right, and that was the first one in my head as well, would be Jerry Faust. I mean, you could say Bob Davey, I suppose. I mean, that was not a good marriage.
Tyrone Willingham.
Tyrone Willingham was not a good marriage. Charlie Weiss was not a great marriage from a recruiting standpoint, or from a developmental standpoint. There's a lot of different ones you could go with.
But at least obviously. For 2 years, he could coach some offense, right?
Yeah, that's true. Bill Dietrich for offensive coordinator.
I was waiting for you to finish yours. Dietrich is who I was going to go with.
I could get on board with that
slam
one.
Dunk, sure. No doubt. I would go Faust head coach, Bill Dietrich offensive coordinator, and offensive coordinator, Van Gorder defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah. And I didn't even see. I'm on the wrong page, so I did George O'Leary. Yeah.
I mean, I don't honestly. If we're doing revisionist history, I don't know that George O'Leary would have been unsuccessful at Notre Dame. I thought that was a pretty good marriage outside of the lying on your resume part, which was
massive. What if? Massive. Yeah. What if?
Massive.
What would that have like? And you just think about the ripple effect.
Yep.
Does Brian Kelly ever come here? Does George O'Leary, does he bring the stability first, or does he end up, just? I don't know how much you can base on what he did at Central Florida, after he ended up down there.
Sure.
So
I thought it was a good hire when it happened.
Yep. Huge sliding door. Everybody was in love with the George O'Leary hire.
Yeah.
It happened. But
that's true.
Did not work out in the long run. All right, Vince, I think that we will wrap it up with that. Again, there are, there's some other questions that I think that we can say, well, how many do we have here? Do you see any that are startup that you absolutely want to get to tonight?
Let me see here.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to save some of those. Let's just go with the. I just realized I've got one last question that I had.
Yes.
So you may remember the story about the fake Columbus, Ohio high school, Bishop Sycamore High, that found a way to get a game against IMG Academy on ESPN a couple years ago. Remember that the team reportedly exaggerated its football program status to get on ESPN, to get a game against IMG. They got slaughtered. They played 2 games in 2 days, all this different crazy stuff. They've made a documentary about it. How interested are you in seeing this story on TV?
Very, to be honest with you, because whoever was their promoter or whatever, got these games and they're a genius. They're a marketing genius. And I want to know the inside. Number one, I want to know how they did it. Number two, I want to know why they did it. And that story took everybody by storm when it happened. Remember that? I want to know
the ESPN guys, they didn't even have rosters. They didn't know players' names, and they were broadcasting this game on national TV.
Unbelievable. And how do you walk into a booth without that information? First of all,
right.
If you and I were doing a game and we didn't have that information, right, and we were doing a national television game, either you or I or both of us would walk into the locker room before the game with a piece of paper and a pencil and be like, you need to tell me your roster.
Right.
That's embarrassing all by itself. Okay.
Who's your quarterback?
Right.
What's your number? What's your name?
Right. Why is that complicated? Number one.
Something.
But either way.
Yeah.
So I want to know where they found these kids. I want to know all of it. I would be very interested in that documentary.
Absolutely. It's just, there's got to be so much in this. And I guess they rolled it out last week at the Toronto Film Festival or something like that. And it's supposed to be coming to HBO, I guess, here pretty soon. So I am really interested in seeing this. Maybe when it comes on, you'll have to come over and we can watch it, and then we can do a show on it.
Nice. I very interested in that particular story. So keep me posted on that one, because there's so many questions I have.
I know. Decaf 18 says he's heading out to watch the College World Series. Wake versus LSU should be a great game. I was watching TCU and Florida this afternoon. TCU tied it up. I think it was in the top of the ninth. No, in the bottom of the eighth. And then Florida took the lead, scored another run in the ninth inning, and ended up eliminating TCU. There have been some crazy good games at the
They've
College
all
World
come down to
Series.
like the last couple of innings, it
I
seems
know.
like.
Almost
it's amazing.
All but maybe 2 or 3 games have
Yeah.
been one-run games so
Crazy.
far. Yep. Yeah, LSU Wake Forest tonight. I got I was about to say I got my money on Wake. I don't have my money on Wake. I'm pulling for Wake against LSU.
And this is an elimination game for LSU, right?
Right. They've got to win. I don't want to see LSU Florida for the national championship because Florida is in the championship series now. So it's either going to be Wake or LSU.
Okay. Gosh, already? That went fast.
I know. Well, and they've changed the format a little bit because the championship series, they used to start it like on Monday, but they're starting it on Saturday.
Okay.
Now. So they're going to turn around and game 1 of the championship series is Saturday. But
hey,
go Wake.
Team USA is playing in Chicago soccer on Saturday, Soldier Field, if you're interested.
Are you going?
I'm going to look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to look. They're playing.
Is Dylan trying to go?
Yeah, he's the one that brought it up to me. And so I was like, hey, we'll look into it. Who are they playing? I forget who they're playing, but yeah, should be fun. We'll see.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Jamaica.
They're playing Jamaica. That's
right.
who they're playing. Jamaica, man.
I didn't even know that was going on.
Neither did I.
Mr. Soccer, Mr. Football.
I know, right?
All right. Well, we will talk to you tomorrow. I almost forgot. I didn't mention this at the top of the show. Micah Shrewsbury, Notre Dame men's basketball coach, on live at 6 tomorrow. Get here right at 6 because I was informed today he's got a hard out. So you don't want to. I guess you can always go back and watch it, record it or whatever. But if you want to see and hear Micah Shrewsbury live, be on right at 6 o'clock. He will be on with us tomorrow night. On tomorrow night's show. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to that for sure. Hit the like button on your way out. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.